Hey guys, this is Will. This is our video from Burghley with tight lines. I thought I'd just talk you through it a little bit and give you a sense of how I thought it was riding as we went around, and I just thought it might be kind of a cool review of what the horse did last week. Obviously this is him starting out. Came out of the box really positive and aggressive. You could definitely tell he was a little affected by the atmosphere, all the people, and basically from fence 1 all the way to the main arena, it's just wall-to-wall people. There's probably 10 to 15 people deep, even along the galloping lanes, and the horses definitely, or at least Fish, definitely felt a little affected by that. He was a little buzzed and kind of maybe not totally with me here in the beginning. This was the first real question in the arena, which although he answered it well, he was just a little head up and not maybe totally paying attention. This was definitely where I realized he was kind of a little bit not 100% with me. He drifted very hard at that 5A, and then I had to give him a couple slaps as we ran up the hill to that brush oxer. But he recovered well, and obviously jumped that oxer well, and then he jumped to this skinny over the ditch very well. So I kind of felt like, okay, maybe that was just what we needed to kind of wake us up and get us in gear. Coming around here to the leaf pit, this is obviously where we had our issue. He dropped off beautifully. I had a really good shot at that middle oxer, and then obviously just ran out of room at the triple brush. So here's another look at it. Drops off, awesome. Immediately I knew right where I was, 5 strides, right to that brush, which is kind of what I planned. And then, he just was underneath that triple brush, and when I went to steady him, he threw his head, and obviously we missed it. So pretty gutting, because geez, I thought the hard part of that question was the drop down and then getting a good ride to the middle brush, and boy, we did that as well as anyone. But I think some of it is just a little bit how he started out. He wasn't super focused, to be honest. I think no matter what, he probably could have just jumped this, but he didn't, and so we were left kind of having to regroup and get back on course and finish. So I kind of meandered my way around the 2 oxers and came back and jumped the option brush there, and then continued on. So the next question immediately after that was this big open oxer 4 strides to this corner, which Fish did perfectly. You can still see he's a little shifty and maybe not just totally settled. And then we galloped up the hill, and there was this big hanger jump here, this blue jump, which had a massive drop on it. Fish made easy work to that, and we came around to the water. And again, this is a place where he got to the base of that jump and he didn't realize that it was an oxer. That pin came down all day. You kind of jump into this very dark pond, and he took off and kind of realized there was a back rail there, but didn't have enough scope to clear it, and he came down of it just with a foot behind. I really thought he shouldn't have broken the pin. He barely touched it, but it fell, so that was another 11 penalties. So we can take another look at it here. This is the live feed recording. Make my turn. I really thought it had a decent shot, and you can just see he just freezes a little bit on takeoff. Didn't read it. When he came down, obviously I didn't actually know the pin had broken, but I could tell I had an awkward fence, and I just thought quickly about just winging around and doing this option. That straightway had a very big log into the water, and Fish isn't always the best water jumper, and I was worried he might be in a bit of a panic and leave his stifles all over it, so I quickly thought to do the option there. I walked that in the morning. We'll take one more look at it here. But that option was obviously a little slower, but at this point I'd already had the 20, and I just wanted to kind of give him a good experience and try to get him around. Really thinking about the next time I'd come back and trying to feel like I leave the event with a good experience and a confident horse for the next time. So, like I said, when he jumped that first oxer and you could just tell it was awkward, I've said immediately there, okay, I'll jump the second oxer and then swing around and do that option that I had walked that morning. And that's what we did. Looking at it again, I still feel like that he kind of didn't really hammer that pin. I mean, he just left a toe on it, really. So that's kind of the nature of that technology. It's easy for those pins to break, and they're a safety feature, and we're obviously glad that we have them. But sometimes you might have a horse that breaks it that maybe doesn't totally deserve it, and I'm not sure my horse deserved that, but at the same time, not obviously whinging about them being there. But besides the broken pin, he really jumped through that well, and then carried on, jumped that big tricaner, and then we're up the hill to these white oxers at the maltings, this was by far the scopiest question of the course, and really one of the more tricky questions. This middle oxer was easily one of the biggest cross-country jumps I've ever jumped, and I was so happy with how my horse went through this. I mean, he jumped the first one like a dream, and then we made a very neat turn, scoped out over the second one, and then look at that turn to the last corner. I mean, really, I don't think a horse did that better than Tight Lines all day, and that was probably one of the more influential questions on the course, because if you didn't get the right jump at that middle oxer, the turn was very difficult, and most people actually ended up taking the option there. But Fish went straight, and I thought he did it superbly. The next jump was this Rolex combination, so a left-handed corner, left turn 4 strides, bounce over the rail, bending 4 strides to this left-handed corner again, and even though he took the flags out, he really did that very neatly. This was kind of an awkward fence. It was a very big brush on the top of a mound, and then down the hill to these 2 gates. So 6 or 7 horses fell at these gates. They were very vertical, no ground line. Super, with my horse jumped super there. I mean, really couldn't have done that any better. This was again like a awkward fence in that a lot of horses didn't really read it. You saw some horses kind of almost canter over it because it was covered in grass, but that's halfway up Winters Avenue, minute and a half long pull uphill. At the top of it, what greets you is this 9.5 foot wide Cottesmore Leap, which is kind of an iconic fence at Burghley. Fish made easy work of that, and then around to this sort of mock coffin. It was a brush, and then dropped down, bending 4 strides to another skinny brush, and again made very, very easy work of that. This was another, kind of the last real testing combination. Coop on a mound, 3 strides to that egg crate, and then you could continue bending 2 strides to this blue egg crate you see there. But after I jumped the middle egg crate, I knew that Fish wasn't really seeing the blue egg crate, so I quickly decided I would do that option that you just saw there, down the hill to that little coop, and it didn't cost a lot of time, and I just thought it was a safer option considering how he had jumped that middle crate. He wasn't really looking where I needed him to be looking. Then you're kind of off to the races, headed home. Downhill, this was the last massive fence on the course, the Slate River Mine box, and then you could see Fish was really, really running. I had to steady him up really hard here to this last water. And he jumped it well. I still had a lot of horse. I mean, the real kicker for me is just how fit and ready my horse was, and I'm just so gutted about the problems early on, because I really felt like I had a horse that could have put down one of the few double clears of the day, and even though we didn't, I still very, very happy with his effort, and again, I think that he'll come out a little bit more ready for the next time we come back, hopefully in 2020. I mean, one thing we can feel really good about is his conditioning, and just how the terrain and everything at Burghley really didn't knock him around much. He finished strong, and I had a double handful the whole way. So despite despite all the problems it caused, I think Fish did so much of the course really, really well, and gutted about the issues, but in my mind, I have a Burghley horse here, and I think all we can do is prepare for next year, and try to come back better for it, and 2020 hopefully will give us another opportunity to show how good this horse can be. So anyways, thanks for getting us there, guys, and as I said, it was a near miss, but I still feel like we have a lot to be encouraged about, and sorry that this one didn't come off like we had hoped for, but 2020 will give us another chance. So that's what we'll put our focus on now. Okay, thanks, guys.